Bonjour à toutes et à tous et bienvenue dans cet épisode un petit peu particulier de 10h47. Est-ce qu'on en reparle dessus? Non, on va en parler avant le générique parce qu'après le générique, du coup, je lance le truc. Donc cette semaine, c'est une interview. J'ai eu la possibilité, la chance, l'honneur d'aller voir Monsieur DARICK ROBBERTSON à Nice. Oui.
Et je veux tout de suite prévenir les gens, préparez-vous pour un accent anglais magnifique.
À couper au couteau, c'est magnifique. Voilà. Il a été très gentil. Hein. Je lui ai dit que j'avais un accent anglais de merde. Et il m'a dit oh, c'est pas grave. De toute façon, mon français et mon italien sont aussi pourris. Donc voilà.
Ça
je pense que. Ouais, voilà. Donc,
au cas où, si vous déviez l'interview en version italienne. Il a tout de suite prévenu.
Ouais, exactement. Je sais pas pourquoi. Parce qu'on était à Nice. Ça s'est passé à la boutique les Fictionnautes, donc à Nice, avec l'ami Guillaume, qu'on avait déjà reçu. Avec l'autre ami Guillaume d'ailleurs de Comptoir du Rêve. Exactement. Donc c'était très très sympa. Voilà. En fait, on a démarré directement. Il est arrivé dans la boutique, on a fait l'interview et après il a fait les dédicaces. Donc ça a été très très cool. Je vous mettrai les photos de la dédicace en fin de vidéo. Et puis je vous laisse avec cette magnifique interview et on se retrouve sinon la semaine prochaine.
À bientôt.
Salut. Ciao. La semaine prochaine, Denis fera son petit gage. Voilà, parce que du coup,
putain, sans déconner.
Ouais.
La magie.
C'est ça. Donc, à plus, n'hésitez pas à liker, à partager, à pousser et à nous dire dans les commentaires ce que vous avez pensé de cette interview. Salut!
Hello, thank you for agreeing to do this interview.
My pleasure.
I will be honest with you to start. I really like your work.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
If you don't mind, we will retrace your career,
okay,
and then talk about the current events.
Okay.
If I read correctly your website, you have always drawn and you even paint Bugs Bunny character on your parents' bathroom.
Yes, yeah. A long time ago. My mom was very encouraging of me, so she. The first thing I learned to draw were Looney Tunes.
Okay.
So Bugs Bunny and Porky Pig and things like that, and it was mostly off the glasses or towels or the things that we had in the house with the characters on them, and I would copy them. So I was decent enough, and so she was kind of my mom did a lot of the heavy lifting with me, but she gave me credit for. You know, and on our shower doors, she had me create these Looney Tunes.
Okay.
And people would comment on it when they'd come over. She was very encouraging that way. I think she wanted to be an artist herself, so she put a lot of that onto me.
And drawing was always vital need for you?
Yeah, it's just something that I've always, I do it almost compulsively. Like if I get bored or nervous, it's like it's something that I'll retreat into.
Okay. You have drawn a superhero like Wolverine, Justice League, Spider-Man, Toxin, and anti-heroes like Punisher, Harbinger, Spider Jerusalem, Nick Sachs, and The Boys.
I don't know if Spiders counts as a superhero, but his superpower is swearing and smoking. But
yes,
and you have high tolerance for drugs.
Yes, no, it's more like an anti-hero.
He's an anti-hero, yeah. Well, he's definitely a hero. I just don't know if he's super.
I tend to think you prefer anti-heroes, but it's really the case.
I've always had a very dark sense of humor, and so horror movies and things like that have always appealed to me since I was very young. And in the climate I grew up in, anti-heroes were in film. They were just making their debut. So I remember things, you know, like when Escape from New York, Snake Plissken, these kind of characters were primary in the media. So, but for comics, I kind of grew up on the DC universe. So Superman and Batman before he went super dark. I like the friendliness of the DC universe, but I love the realism that started to come in the mid-'80s with Daredevil Born Again and Dark Knight Returns, things like that. I thought that was always a great direction with superheroes because real people would have real problems, and that's sort of what those stories represented and those writers captured.
Okay.
And artists, of course.
Okay.
Dave Gibbons and
Okay, more realistic.
I just and David Mazzucchelli. Yeah, they every artist named David.
Okay, I discovered you while I reading Punisher Born, and what impressed me were the faces.
Thank you.
They are a cartoonistic quality to the expression that sometimes clash with the very realistic environment. It was the effect you want.
In the early 2000s, I was kind of going through a transition in my artwork where I wasn't quite sure which way I was going to go. But what was always important to me was to capture the emotion of the moment. So if I exaggerated that a little bit, or to some degree, it was only to make the impact of the scene resonate. But I think a lot of my inspiration there came from Michael Golden's The Nom, because Michael Golden did an amazing job of making cartoonish faces and then perfectly capturing the machinery and the hardware. And so in a lot of ways, I wanted to emulate that energy, but also because it was a Punisher story, I wanted it to have a bit of a comic quality to it, because the Punisher, Merci, because the Punisher is not a real person. But at the same time, as I did more research for the Merci beaucoup, as I did more research for the story, it really impacted me in that real people went through a real war, and their lives were irrevocably altered by that experience. And therefore, I didn't want to treat it like it was a mythical thing that happened. I wanted it to be, and I loved Ennis's story, so I really wanted the hard-hitting aspects of that story to feel grounded and resonate with the audience at the same time. So I was kind of trying to walk this line between wanting it to be accurate and also wanting the story to be entertaining. And what was really and Nick Lowe, who is the assistant editor at the time and is now, major editor at Marvel, well deserved, is his father was a Vietnam veteran, and he was kind enough to loan me his photo album.
Okay.
And so the backgrounds and things were taken from photographs of a person that was actually there in a camp like the one Frank was in. So things that were on the shelves, little details like that, I was able to kind of bring in to kind of give it more of a realism.
Okay.
So as far as the expressions go, it just was more about punctuating the emotions.
Okay, well, that's rock.
Thank you.
Now let's talk about adaptation. If you
want to talk about the boys' show, I'm happy to talk about that.
Yes, I see you are producer.
Yes,
on that show, on the boys. What's the experience on that new job?
I'm lucky enough that my name is associated with something so fantastic, but it's more of an honorary title that comes with the agreement.
Okay.
I don't sit in the writer's room. I don't, tell them what to do. They don't call me up and ask permission or anything. But what has been really nice is that I've developed a good relationship with the cast and the crew and the producers, in that I've been to set and I've created artwork for the show. And if I have questions or I want to know what's happening, they'll send me scripts and I can check in and go, hey, what's next for this? Or why did you make that choice? I try very hard not to interrupt what they're doing, because I think they're doing a fantastic job and clearly they don't need my advice. But I also know that they love the comics and they've treated me with a great deal of respect and made me feel very welcome when I do want to be involved. But as a producer goes, I'm learning what a producer does, but I don't really have a hands-on. I hope in future adaptations of my work, if there are future adaptations of my work, I will have a more active role, understanding better what it is that would be required of me in that role.
Okay. The fact is, when the adaptation it's due, enfin, it's make. The comics is on comics, and the show is on social media, TV, and cinema.
Yeah.
For you, it's a good way to put the boys on TV.
Yeah, it's an interesting. Somebody else pointed that out to me, that we really were skewering comics, because when we started The Boys as a comic book, there really wasn't an MCU or an established DCU at that time. So it sort of it really didn't occur to me until somebody else pointed out. It's like, oh, the show's skewering what they're doing in the media, where you guys are skewering what we did in comics. So the fact that those two mediums were the mediums they were in, it made more sense. So so I kind of love that. Like, it was a really smart move. That's what's been great about the show in general, is they always seem one step ahead of what's about to hit, and where everything in that show felt so prescient and on target that even it's almost like what the good luck we had with Transmetropolitan, in that we kind of predicted the future, not knowing that's what we were doing. But The Boys has been right on that note the whole time. So, you know, but I love what they've done, because I don't think the show spoils the comic, and the comic doesn't spoil the show, but their love and respect for the comic always comes through, and they always find ways to weave in little things that, if you know the comic book well, you'll go, oh, there's that thing. Oh, it's that character. Oh, that character's doing that thing. And I like that a lot. But I mean, at this point, we have, you know, on the main show, there's like 2 new characters that never appeared in the comic books, or if they did, they were background people. But like Sister Souljah and Firecracker, they made those up for the show, but yet they fit in great, and they're terrific characters and are a poignant statement on what's happening around what Homelander's doing, and the fascism that's creeping in on the show.
Okay. Last question.
Yes.
You have wrote your own comics book, Space Beaver. Now, do you want to write another How comics books?
I've been lucky enough that in the last few years, I got to write and draw Batman, and over the years, I've written and drawn a Spider-Man story or two, and I've written and drawn Conan the Barbarian, and I really like it. But it's like always a challenge for me, that I always feel that if everybody gives up on me, well, then I'll go back to writing and drawing my own stuff. But when I have, you know, I'm proud of my artwork, but writing still feels like a skill that I'm honing. And whereas I have super talented writers in my life that want to collaborate, that I can't write nearly as well as they do, and they can't draw at all. So I'd rather, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to chase my own ideas as a writer when I have so many people that I'd love to collaborate with. And I really do love the act of collaboration. It's a lonely thing to write and draw something by yourself, because if it's terrible, you got no one else to blame but yourself. But also, it's like you don't have anybody to sound off with. And I really like the act of taking an idea and, like a ball, throwing it back and forth. That's what made Transmetropolitan so wonderful, is that I had lots of room to bring my own ideas to the art and to the story. And Warren would always find a way of receiving and implementing it. So, for example, the sex puppets, which became more of a focal point of something that Spider would watch or you'd see more about, that originally was just a little calendar I threw in the background as a funny aside. In the background of issue 1, when he's at the toll booth. The toll booth has a sex puppets calendar, because in those days I thought paper calendars would continue to be a thing before the whole world went digital, which we didn't see coming. But as a thing, he just has the calendar in the background. But then Warren's like, "What's that about?" And I had a whole idea behind it, but it was just something I threw on the wall. But then Warren went in and said, "Oh," and he would write it in as a show. So it's like something that I would come up with and he would take and expand on. The cat was that. I just had the cat in the original design drawing walking down the alley. And he's like, "What's with that cat?" And I had an idea behind it. And I explained it. He goes, "Oh, that's cool. Let's make it his pet." And I'm like, "Oh, that's a great idea." So we would have that wonderful, like, throwing the ball back and forth of ideas. And so I like that. I think that's the best way to build something up. But with Space Beaver, it was never meant to be. I never thought it would be published. It was kind of just good fortune that it would start my career. But ironically, I'm revisiting it right now. There's an omnibus in the works, and I'm remastering the artwork because the original art got lost so many years ago that I'm taking the art and kind of rebuilding it digitally from the comics and fixing things and putting in tone that I couldn't afford back then. And but I really like, so the omnibus presentation is going to be a new presentation of old work. Okay. So it's going to be like adult professional me going back and editing and tutoring 16-year-old me who didn't know what he was doing. And, you know, adult me barely knows what he's doing, but, you know, it's gotten me this far.
Okay, cool.
But I do like writing and drawing, but I have a lot more fun collaborations with people I'm excited to work with upcoming. And like I said, when everybody's done with me, then I'll probably go back to writing and drawing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice speaking with you.